Welcome back, DIY car guys. Tyler here. I wasn't going to do this video, but I got a quick little tech tip on assembling heads, what you might want to look for. So when you're doing it, whenever you change your cam, whenever you change your springs, whenever you change your retainer, a whole bunch of variables just go out the windows. You can't just get whatever. And a lot of times the small block Chevy stuff, they have so many different head combinations, so many different cam combinations compared to, like, the newer motors, that you really got to look for a couple of things. And I just want to go through that today with you guys that might help you out. This is not a get or done moment. This is what you really want to look for when you're doing something that you don't want it to just go down the track and blow up. So if you do a couple of these things on your cylinder heads and what to look for, you'll probably be just fine. So today we're talking about just that. Now I know a lot of you guys don't have one of these right here, but I might as well go ahead and cover this, is because on these guys right here, especially when you have a dual spring, you see all those scribbly marks? This wasn't me just messing up or whatever, really doing this. When I went through all the springs and measured the spring pressures, I had some as low as 575 and some as high as 620. So the way you go through and you kind of correct that, see, when you have a dual spring like this, you have an inner spring. So what you do is you just take that inner spring out, swap it onto another spring, and then you retest it. And you can see I got them all, within about 20 pounds of each other. That is way better than being one at, 575, another one at 620. That's a big jump in like spring pressure, so you don't want that. So the whole point is to get all your springs as tightly as possible and all the spring pressures on your cams. So you have a lot better balance on the spring pressures on your motor. And also you want to take the ones that have the higher spring pressure, like this right here. You put those on your intake. Take the ones that are the lowest, you put those on your exhaust valve. Okay, so here is about the most important tech tip I can give you guys. See right here, if you look at what it says the coil bind is, it's 1 inch and 53 thousandths, right? Okay, so that is without the retainer on the spring. So if we were to test this, it would coil bind, and coil bind is when these guys are pretty much touching each other and it cannot compress the spring anymore. It will be around that right here. So let's go ahead and we'll test it without the retainer on. So if you guys hear noise in the background, my wife's in the kitchen. She's making dinner. Oh, and bless her heart, this is what she got me for my birthday. How awesome is that? So that's why we're making this video right now, and that's why I can test these spring pressures, because of my wife. Love her to death. She's over there and she's making some dinner too. So the way this works is you have two little slits right here, right? So when this goes in, like so, you can take your calipers. Let's go to inch. And then you can measure right here what exactly these distances are on your spring, all right? So that's how that works. So let's go ahead and we'll crank her down until we get bind. Now you have bind whenever this needle right here, where the pressure goes up, when it starts to skyrocket all of a sudden, that's when you know the spring don't go no more. So we're gonna go ahead and crank it up, and if you watch it, it'll get to a point where it is just going to skyrocket. Keep watching it. Boom, see that? It skyrocketed. Let's go back one more time and we'll get right to that point. Go real slow. And should be getting there soon. Right there. All right, I'm gonna back it up just a little bit. So let's take a measurement quick. Let's zero this out. And let's see exactly where coil bind is. That is 1 inch and 72 thousandths. Let's compare on the box. And the box says 1 inch and 53 thousandths. So we're pretty close, no big deal. Let's put this guy on the spring and see what the difference is. So let's go ahead. Got our retainer on there now. Let's get this in a good spot where I can take a good accurate measurement. See, it's we'll take it from this guy right here and this guy right here. You can't take it from the retainer, you gotta take it from the spring. Remember, this retainer is pushing on this middle spring right here. So when you have a dual spring, you always gotta use the retainer. So let's go ahead and wind her down. All right. Let's watch for the skyrocket. Whenever it starts to go really fast, that's when we're at bind. Right there. So I'll back up just a little bit. All right, let's take another measurement. And look at that. Let's lock it down. 1 inch, 171 thousandths. See, that's a little difference. You definitely want to take that into account because according to the box, that's a big change right there. So what's happening is that middle spring is binding before the outer spring. So you may be looking at this saying, man, look, I got all types of room for coil bind, but if you take this, I can't get that thing in anywhere. So you really have to make sure that you got a retainer on there whenever you have a dual spring, because this changes the game on your springs, and that is a really easy way to screw things up. So I'm running a solid roller cam, and whenever you set your springs, you have to use your cam card. You see right here, it says 640 lift is going to be the high side. And of course, we don't have to worry too much about the intake. We're still going to put them all at the same height. But one thing you got to take into account when you're setting, how close it is to bind on your solid roller cam, you also have this lash running clearance. So this 640 is actually going to be 620 lift. So just keep that into account. On a hydraulic roller, you don't got to worry about that. It's probably going to be right around there. But on a solid, you got to take minus that running clearance from the lift of your cam. So let's look at this pretty easy preschool math. This is where I decided I was going to set my spring height on the head. So it's 1 inch and 860 thousandths. And I always kind of round up a little bit when I'm doing my clearances on my springs. So I just did 630 as what it's going to be. And down here was going to be my full lift on the intake side. When it's, all the way down, it'd be 1 inch and 260 thousandths, right? And my coil bind, see, I even popped up, it was like a 1.7 something, but I always kind of round up so I have more clearance. So it's gonna be 1.8 bind, and that'll give me what? Around 80 thousandths clearance. We know we have a little more, but that's plenty. So we have 80 thousandths clearance before those springs touch. So let's go ahead and see how big that looks. If you want a reference on it, let's go ahead and unlock this, zero it out, and let's just go to 80. And right around there. So on my springs, you can see it's going to at least have that much clearance in between the coils, so that way we're not going to have any interference. But you also want your springs to be as close to bind as possible, because that's just going to help your valve train stay stable. All right, so what we have here are spring shims. Now, these are 15 each, right? These guys right here, and this is a 60. Now, they do make, 15 by 15 would be, 30. Here's a 30, but I keep all these, shims, I keep these just lying around because even these two together are gonna be slightly different than one of these guys right here. And this helps you get your spring height right. So I'm gonna I'll take this one first. I'll take my 60 and my 215s, put them on there. And then you have your locator, which goes on next. Your locator's job is to just keep this spring from jumping around. These things do have a pocket, but look at the movement on the pocket. If I put it on the locator, a lot less movement. I'm moving the whole table now. So anyways, so we're not gonna use the spring right now. We got our locator on there. We have our retainer. And what I'm gonna use right here to see what my install height is a valve spring micrometer. So I'm gonna take this guy right here, screw it all the way in, pull that up. I have this thick stuff right here. I like it because whenever you lubricate this, it helps keep it up and it falls really slow. We have a hole in the table right here, but hopefully we can get it on there before it falls down. And take that and take our locks. I'm going to push up from this side. Put that guy on there. Pull it up. Whoopsie. Let's try this again. Trying to do this around the camera is a little difficult. So let's put that back on there. Put this guy in there. You know what? I'm about to show you guys another trick. Take this stuff right here. Usually I can do it without this stuff, but on camera I make it a lot easier. I just made a mess, but you get the idea. See, it'll stick on there now. See that? You can use Vaseline too. They say you can use that. I just use the Comp Assembly Lube. It works for me. I got that big ass thing for pretty cheap. So you take it out, we run it all the way in, and we're going to do this until it's tight. Take your hammer, kind of pop it, and then turn it the rest of the way because it's going to be way tighter than that whenever that spring goes on. So let's look at our measurement. So this guy right here, before it gets to these numbers like 6, 7, 8, is 1 inch. So that's 1 inch, 60, 70, 80. So it's 1 inch, 860 thousandths. So we know we are right where we need to be for this install height with those shims on there. So we are good to go. So now we can put the spring on. Before we can put our spring on, we need to put our valve stem seal on, which is this guy right here. AFR has these nice little ridges right here, so it grabs the seal pretty good. So these are really easy to put on. I got lube on the valve stem, and I got lube right in there because no one likes it raw. What? Put that guy on there, and usually you can just push these right on. I'll just take this side of the retainer, and then you can just completely push it on, and it is on there. And you can see right here where I've beveled these locators because I wanted to put this spring, shim it up more, and it would have hit the locator. So we got some clearance on there. We're good to go. So now let's go ahead and install the spring. Okay, so I have a hole in the table right there. This guy just goes on the bottom of the valve. Let's put the retainer on top. And this tool has bent a little bit, so it's kind of a pain in the you-know-what to get to work now. But we can get to work. And you just compress it down, and there is a lot of, talking about 600 pounds on this thing right now. So we're gonna put that one on right here. And the way I figured out how to do it is just to get it like that. It's not ideal, but I ain't buying another tool. And I just kind of rotate this to the side a little bit. Then I can put the other one on the back side. Hopefully this don't pop up on me. I'm using my crotch to grab it. And then I'll put this on the back side. Okay, we'll just coats it up. There we go, right in there. And there we go. And I'm OCD, so I like to get all that lube out the little edge right there. There we go. I feel better now. And that is pretty much it. Like I said, this is a little short tech video. Hope this helps someone out when they're putting their heads together. So there's a lot of just little things that you gotta just make sure that happens in order to make this guy work properly. And until next time, I got more videos coming. We're gonna put these heads on the 400 cubic inch small block Chevy and doing some other things. So make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification so you can be informed about future videos on my channel. Thanks for watching. Peace.